In this town, there's no off-season. The news never stops, and neither do we. It's always game day in Cleveland with Andy Baskin and Daryl Ryder.
It's always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I am Andy Baskin, talking about things that are going on for the Browns here in the offseason. And, of course, we're brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. All right, Daryl, let's hop into what's going on with the Browns, because obviously there's been a couple changes. Tommy Rees is now the offensive coordinator. Bill Musgrave moves up to quarterback coach. What does this mean? And, by the way, Musgrave's worked with a lot of quarterbacks in the past. So, and listening to Kevin Stefanski at the Senior Bowl, it sounds to me like they want to have a plan, but they're going to tailor it to whoever is going to be the starting quarterback next year.
They're going to draft a quarterback. The question is, will
at 2? That's I don't want to hear it.
No, hang on. The question is, are they going to do it at 2, or are they going to do it later in the draft? But I think it's very apparent that they're going to draft a quarterback. I think that that's part of what is behind the elevation of Musgrave from a senior offensive assistant to now he's the quarterback's coach. This is a guy that's been an offensive coordinator for 6 different teams in the National Football League. He's got 26 years combined coaching experience between the collegiate level and the National Football League. So, and the other thing too is it's just a sign that Kevin Stefanski's got the car keys back, right? He's going to get back to his bread and butter and what he wants his offense doing. And so, I don't know that there's going to be this seismic shift in offense from what we saw from 2020 to 2023. I will say that I think that, the concepts that Ken Dorsey brought with him that they could not execute, those go in the recycle bin and get set on fire, never to be heard from again. But I think that this is, promoting a couple of guys from within. Kevin Stefanski knows these guys. He trusts them. Rees came in from Notre Dame last year, did a pretty good job with the tight ends, working with Mike Vrabel. I think there was also some sense of urgency there too, because I think Rees might have gotten poached by Vrabel or somebody else.
Probably.
Because he is thought to be a head coach in waiting. But this is a sign of, Stefanski's got his people back in play now. And so it's going to be on them to develop whatever young quarterback they ultimately draft, again, whether that's at 2 or, in the later rounds.
All right. So what, I'm asking this, and I mean, you've laid it out. Is there anything going on here? Like, does it matter? Because we're hearing the offensive coordinator tied to one quarterback. You hear about the quarterbacks, the new quarterbacks coach tied to another quarterback. Can you read into anything or no?
Well, I think that that's just something we naturally do at this point, right? When someone gets hired, we're trying to connect dots and, there's a Kirk Cousins relationship here. There's a Milroe connection here. By the way, if you've watched Milroe at the Senior Bowl, I think it's pretty clear the Browns can't draft him. He is.
Yeah, we're talking about, and I saw you put that out there on social media, and I'm also like, okay, this is one practice with guys that he's never played with before, and he overthrew him a couple times. There's no way I'm judging whether I want him or not based on one day at the Senior Bowl. I'm just not doing it. I know what I saw during the regular season, and there might be a lot of reasons there. This goes back to an argument that I had earlier today about the number 2 pick overall. And I think it was Andrew Siciliano said on our show, if you really like someone, you should take him at 2. And I don't disagree with Andrew's philosophy, but I do. I disagree with this philosophy that you better not like them at 2. You better love them at 2.
Right.
And if you love them at 2, then do it. But if you're just in you're destined for divorce.
Yeah, and the first 2 selections that the Browns have, they cannot afford to miss on. They have the number 2 pick. They have the number 33 overall pick. You cannot afford both of those selections have to be year 1 contributors as rookies. Like they just have to. That's just where they are as a franchise. They are in dire need of some infusion of young, talented players. This is one of the more old, expensive rosters in the National Football League that won a grand total of 3 games. So the importance of those 2 selections cannot be overstated enough. And you cannot reach with either of those picks. That also is important. Yes, no question. Quarterback is a need. This is the debate we're going to be having from now until April. By the time we get to March, I'm going to be sick and tired of talking about it, but it is what it is. And that is, you can't reach for a quarterback just because you need the quarterback, because then you miss out on other great players that can help you. They need an heir apparent to Nick Chubb. They need a bookend to Myles Garrett. They need another defensive tackle. If they choose not to extend Greg Newsome, you got to replace him. If you don't want to have to go out and spend money in free agency on safeties, you maybe get another, compliment for Grant Delpit. JOK's future is up in the air. So a versatile sideline to sideline defending linebacker, could be a good idea to use a pick on. So just because you have the number 2 pick and you need a quarterback, that does not mean you absolutely have to draft a quarterback with that pick.
Do you agree with me on this like versus love thing, though?
Oh, 100%. You've got to nail those picks, and they've got to be guys that can step on the field and help you in 2025. Bottom line.
If they do decide, and I kind of wasn't planning on doing this, but I do want to ask you this question. If they do decide to draft a quarterback at 2, what kind of pressure is on them to put them on the field immediately?
I think there's a lot of pressure to put them on the field quickly. And that's not.
And that's why I don't want them to pick a quarterback at 2. I just, like, if you look at this entire draft, and I don't ever
them. Like, I think because all of these quarterbacks in this draft, from Cam to Shador, Milroe, on down the line, all those guys need development before they go on an NFL field. All of them do, right? Cleveland is the least patient city for quarterbacks. There's no room to develop here. You can't wait 2 and 3 years for a guy to develop. You need a guy that can step on the field and help you win now.
Since 1999, Daryl, how many Browns quarterbacks have made it to season 6?
None.
0. That's
None.
Right.
I mean, they struggle just to get a guy that can start 16 games, let alone now 17 games.
And how many guys have done that since 99?
Baker Mayfield, Tim Couch did it one year, and that's it. Yeah.
Baker did it twice.
Yeah, Baker did it twice. He started 53 consecutive games.
It's amazing. That's mind-blowing. You have to go back to Bernie, right?
Oh, you have to go back to Brian Sipe, late 70s, early 80s. So, I mean, it's just the way it's been here. But there's not a Jay and Daniels in this draft. There just is not. All the guys that have been the experts, the draft analysts that have been scouting these guys all throughout college football season, they're all saying pretty much the same thing. If you merged this year's quarterback class with last year's quarterback class, they're at earliest the bet, which is, Cam Ward is probably considered to be the best, right?
Okay.
Cedar Sanders is considered to be number 2.
Not too far behind, right?
Right, but not far behind.
Right.
Those are the 6th and 7th or 7th and 8th players in last year's quarterback draft.
Wow.
Selected. So that goes to my point. Just because you need the position doesn't mean you should, reach for a guy. And look, Shador may be the next, I don't know, Lamar Jackson or Pat, whatever. Like, I don't know. I just know he's not ready right now. Cam Ward, not ready right now. He might be the next Derek Carr, whatever the comparison is for him, but he's not ready right now. And I feel like if you're the Browns and you're going to spend a high pick like that, you want somebody that's ready. And that's not to say that, Musgrave can't develop the guy, right, over a year or 2. But let's be honest about this, Andy. Do you think Kevin Stefanski is going to get another 1 to 3 years here?
No, he's not.
Without having a quarterback that he can rely on that can win them games. And
Kevin's got to have his man this year. I truly believe that. Kevin's not
this year that can win. You know what I mean? Like,
but he's still got to get a guy that's going to get them to 7 or 8 wins this year, right?
What I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Whether that's a Kirk Cousins or if Darnold becomes available, whatever. Like they've got to find a bridge quarterback that can help them win some games this year, keep the boat afloat, so that in 2026 you can hit the ground running.
Gotcha.
And I stand firm on this. If you're not taking Carter at 2, trade back a few slots, hype up Shador and Cam, sucker a team to coming up and giving you their first round pick next year to move up to 2. So then next year you've got 3 first round picks you can trade for the number 1 pick in the draft. That's your 2 1s next year and your 2027 first round pick. That's for me, because I'm betting that next year's draft class is as far as quarterbacks go, I'm banking on them being better than this year's.
All right, he's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. Let's come back here in a second. I want to talk about other things that are going on in the Senior Bowl and something that Andrew Berry said that gives me pause to think about what exactly the front office thinks of their own team. So we'll talk about that when we come back. It's always game day in Cleveland. It's always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin, and we continue on with our show that's brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. Thanks again to everybody listening to us on the Odyssey app and, of course, watching on YouTube. All right, Daryl, so one of the things that came out of the Senior Bowl was a quick conversation with some reporters that Andrew Berry had that, came into question. Hey, what if somebody walked up to you and offered you 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett? Would you make it? And he's like, no, I wouldn't do that. So I'm just curious your thoughts on that. And then obviously it sounds like at least the organization is open and is seriously considering a extension in his contract.
Well, first of all, golf clap for Andrew Berry, because that absolutely was the correct response. You're not finding another Myles Garrett in the draft, so you don't trade that guy. Also, too, this is not a tear it down to the stud situation. For as bleak as 3-14 was, they don't need to repeat 4-44 all over again here, because you do have blue chip talent already on this roster. You just need more blue chip talent, and you also need all of your blue chip talent to play like blue chip talent. And these are all things that Andrew Berry covered in his season ending press conference back on January 6th. But Zach Jackson, Mary Kay Cabot, both down at the Senior Bowl. And, they posted the stories yesterday about that. And, they're going to make Myles Garrett the highest paid defender in the NFL history. Like that's going to happen this offseason. The only question is when. They're also probably telling Myles Garrett, hey, we're going to get you help. And by help, what I mean is we're going to find you a bookend. We're going to find you another stud defensive tackle.
At number 2? Tell me it's at number 2.
And hopefully at number 2, that's going to take some pressure off you and, stop opposing offenses from holding you on every single play, double teaming you on every play, chipping you on every play. Thus, that will help to elongate your career. And yes, we do understand the quarterback is the number 1 problem we need to solve. But as part of our plan to help elongate your career and make us a better football team, we're going to find that complementary piece for you on the defensive line, while at the same time searching for that long lost solution at quarterback. And if we don't feel that it's available to us this offseason, we're going to be smart about it, and we're going to position ourselves to go ahead and do that in 2026. I really sincerely believe, Andy, that was the speech that Andrew Berry gave to Myles Garrett this offseason. And that is why you saw the progression in Myles' tone over a 4-week stretch go from, I don't know what my future holds. I'm not staying around here and wasting my career with the laughing stock of the National Football League. I need to try and win some Super Bowls here. Then it went to, I have I feel pretty good. I've had some conversations with the front office. I'm feeling better about things. And then I think it was the second to last Hard Knocks episode, in the exclusive on camera thing that he had with their producers, he's like, we're not that far away.
Right.
So I really believe that Andrew Berry has had those conversations with Myles to kind of lay things out for him and in a fashion that satisfies Myles. But the most important component, and I said this at the time, when Garrett had those comments, when he called out the organization, just contract was a big part of that. And the fact that he's got 2 years remaining on his current deal, it's time for a pay raise. He's vastly underpaid considering the resume that he has built for himself. 6-time Pro Bowler, multiple time All Pro, which he'll probably be All Pro, again this year. He's a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year, I think, for the 3rd or 4th time in his career. He's won the award once already. So he is underpaid from a market value standpoint, and that is something that I fully expect Barry to rectify this offseason. And you're going to see Myles Garrett become very optimistic about where the organization is and just how far away he, at least from a public fashion, believes them to be.
So I think it's interesting when we talk about trying to get Myles help. This is supposed to be a very, very deep draft in edge rushers, especially guys that, will be able to complement Myles Garrett. So every once in a while, I just kind of peek in on some of the mock drafts. The one I always kind of hit, and I talk about this on the air, is CBS. They have 4 great guys on there that we've had for years that have come back on the show, especially like Chris Trapasso. So I thought it was interesting today, and it was just probably like within the hour, Chris Trapasso changed his number 2 mock and took the Browns out of that spot, traded it with the Raiders, having the Raiders take Shedeur Sanders, and then the Browns dropping down to 6 to take Travis Hunter, which you don't know if that's going to help you offensively or defensively. Ryan Wilson was still sitting at 2 at Shedeur Sanders, but talk about getting him help. Then you look at Mike Remmer and Josh Edwards, both for CBS, saying that Cam Ward and then Abdul Carter, the guy I would love for them to see to get to give Myles the competitive equalization on the defensive line at number 2. That would make me happy because I think Carter stands out among those that, although who knows after the Senior Bowl and after the Combine how this is going to shake out. But I do think it's interesting that there just doesn't seem to be a real consensus on what's going on and perhaps who would be the number 1 quarterback and then the first non-quarterback taken off the board.
I feel like the Raiders are the team to watch as far as a trade with the Browns. Having the Browns slide down to 6, the Raiders come up to 2 to draft Shedeur Sanders, and that's fine. And again,
what else are they getting though? That's my question. Are they getting
Browns,
2 number 1s?
You get Vegas's first-round pick next year, and maybe you get a 5th-round pick with it too for next year or something like that. Like it's all about assembling a war chest next year to where you can go get you can trade for the number 1 pick in the draft. That's what I'm eyeing. So you don't have to lose your way to the number 1 pick in the draft next year. You can then position yourself to trade for the number 1 pick in the draft next year. That's what I'm focused on. But I also would not have an issue if they did stand pat and take Abdul Carter with that number 2 pick from Penn State and pair him opposite Myles Garrett. I think Carter's maybe got to put a little more meat on the bones.
He doesn't look like Myles. Like he can go to a normal tailor and get a suit, whereas Myles has to go out and get that, the gigantic.
He's going to get the Hulk suit.
Yeah, the Hulk suit.
Remember when Myles was at the draft in Cleveland and he wore the Hawks? He wore a green, I think it was a velvet green jacket. Yeah. And I called it the Hulk jacket because he flecked his, he just raised his arm. He didn't flex. He just lifted his arm and his biceps were just bulging out of that green jacket. And I'm like, I don't know that coat is going to hold the seams there.
The coat was going, help me.
What was that again?
Help me. You got to close your mouth. Help me. Yeah, so I think some of these things are. So, what do you think the Browns think of their team then, if they're not willing to trade Myles Garrett? And do you think they just feel like they're 2-3 pieces away?
Well, I do think that they're 2 or 3 pieces away. And
is it 2-3 or is it less than that?
I think it's 2-3. Because
they need a running back. I think they need another wide receiver, and they clearly need a quarterback.
Running back, and you need another rusher to pair with Myles Garrett. So that's 3 pieces. Okay. So look, I mean, there are obviously worse spots to be in roster-wise, and trust us, the Browns have been there for the bulk of the last 26 years.
Amen.
But the other thing too, and I give Barry credit for pointing this out, is you also need your players to play to their potential, and that didn't happen this past season. We can sit here and bemoan the Deshaun trade until we're blue in the face or red in the face, right? First of all, it doesn't solve the problem. They're going to move on now. That is plain as day. He is no longer a factor. The money he is owed, who cares? It's not our money. The cap management, hey, you know what? Andrew Berry got him in the mess. It's his job to get him out of it. So that's on him to deal with. But us sitting here, bickering because of the ramifications of that trade accomplishes nothing. What we need to talk about is the plan to actually move on from it. And that is with a young rookie quarterback, because look, if you have a young rookie quarterback that can step on the field and play immediately, guess what? You're not paying him $46 million a year, right?
Right.
So, and you're seeing this model throughout the NFL. Like the Washington Commanders are in a great spot right now. Yes, they still have some things that they have to tweak. They're 55-22 away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender, right? But at the same time, they have Daniels on that rookie contract for the next 4 years. So they're going to be able to spend their salary cap resources on those pieces and parts to help him out. The Kansas City Chiefs were able to do that with Patrick Mahomes to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I that adds to my theory on I wish that if the Browns are going to take a quarterback, take him at the end of the first round so that you can have that extra year.
Yeah,
to me, and you've got 4 picks in the top 103.
Right, you trade up from 33 to the back end of the first round to take, and that's why you're seeing Milroe being projected as a first round pick, Andy. Not because he has first round pick talent, but because that 5th year of control on the contract. And
the Browns only need to get up 1 spot to get that last pick in the first round. So it's all very interesting. All right, more Senior Bowl talk. Also want to hop into the Super Bowl as well. It's always game day in Cleveland. It's always game day in Cleveland rolls on as we talk about what's going on with the Browns here in the offseason, the Senior Bowl and the Pro Bowl coming up this week too as well. So we'll talk about that because we are brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. Daryl, you were talking about the Pro Bowl. We were talking about in the break there for a second while you guys were listening to commercials or watching on YouTube. And, Joel Bitonio, once again, making his mark going to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, 7th consecutive Pro Bowl for Bitonio now. 4th most in Browns history. So I'm going to give you a quiz here, Andy.
Okay.
Give me the 3 players that have appeared in more Pro Bowls than Joel Bitonio.
Jim Brown.
Yep.
Joe Thomas.
2.
Who's the third?
You got
who is the third? Is it just give me one clue? After 90? No, it's not.
The address in Berea, Ohio.
Lou Groza. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And Lou Groza was my first thought on that. And I was like, I wonder if they still did things the same exact way. That was the only thing. Although Jim was there. So obviously that makes sense. So
yeah,
not too shabby.
Yeah. So, Thomas 10, Brown and Groza 9. So even if Bitonio comes back next season and makes it again, I think he's firmly planted in that spot. Let me ask you this. Do you think that Bitonio, this 7th Pro Bowl, puts him in legit running for the Pro Football Hall of Fame now?
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it puts him in there. The problem, again, is that you're sitting here and it's not obvious and doesn't hit everyone in the face because of the lack of playoff experience, because it's easier to look at it and go, oh, what do you do in the playoffs? Or, oh, does he have a ring? Or, oh, blah, blah, blah. But Joe was able to overcome that. And that's why I think Joe will be able to too, especially if Joe is banging the drum for him, his chances are going to get better.
Okay. So question 2 then for you,
because not for you. You answer the same question?
Yeah. I think he should be considered. I do feel like though interior offensive linemen, it's harder for them to get
very hard. Yeah.
Number 1, number 2, lack of playoff. He has played in a couple playoff games, but the fact that the Browns haven't been, a tangible Super Bowl contender, right? And then the other thing too is the fact that the Pro Bowl is a joke these days.
Well, that's true too. But so to me, I think being all pro is more important than being a pro.
Right. And the fact that like Drake May's a Pro Bowler for the Patriots, a quarterback, like nothing against him, but dude didn't even throw for 3,000 yards this past season. And he's a Pro Bowler. Like, really? Like, I can make a case for Baker, and I did love the fact that some people were trying to subtweet post me on X yesterday because I just, pointed out that, hey, Baker Mayfield made it to the Pro Bowl as,
Right.
an alternate. He's the first Buccaneers quarterback in franchise history to make multiple Pro Bowls. And people thought like I was dunking on the Browns or trolling the Browns or whatever. And that's not what I was doing. I was just simply stating
fact. Yeah.
Just stating a fact. But I can make a case for Baker to be a legitimate Pro Bowler. Threw for over 4,000 yards, among the league leaders in touchdown passes. He won his division last year, or this past season, I should say, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Back-to-back years, he's won division. So, like, I can actually make a tangible case for Baker Mayfield to be a Pro Bowler as he replaces Daniels from the Washington Commanders, who is not going to appear. But I do feel like that the legitimacy of the Pro Bowl as the years go by here, and the more it turns into like an obstacle course, flag football, dodgeball type of event, it just becomes meaningless. You know what I mean? Like, meaningless is the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying? Like, the value of it, I think, is being decreased.
If they didn't pick up the little bit of ratings that they got for this thing for the Battle of the Network Stars, I think they would drop it. And why wouldn't you just introduce all pros from each conference at the award show before the Super Bowl? Wouldn't that make more sense? Just 100%. Make it so it's part of the Emmys or, the Super Bowl awards or something.
You mean NFL honors?
NFL honors, Super Bowl awards, whatever you want to call it. NFL
Myles
honors.
Garrett, by the way, once again, congratulations to him. He is a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. Do you think Myles is going to win it, by the way? I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but it's not that he's not deserving of it. Like, I think if he won it, I could understand it. I just don't.
I think he's penalized because they won 3 games this year.
Yeah, that's why. But if they win 5 games, he's got a shot. And the problem is it's not his fault. It's the offense's fault. When you can't put 20 points on the board, it doesn't matter. You could have 100 sacks, but if they can get 1 field goal off a kickoff return, you're never going to win. I just don't see it. Yeah. What do you think of the fact that the league is going to stay with kickoff? Speaking of, they're going to stay with the format.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
They were saying that returns were up 57% compared to the year
before. The numbers are good this year. I mean, not for us.
I hate it. I'm sorry. I just and when you have a play that inherently starts offside, I wish there was something else they were doing, and I can't figure it out. And I kind of want them to move the kicker back 10 yards so you force teams, or maybe make the landing area smaller so you force teams to have a run back.
Yeah.
Although the injuries are down too. So, I mean, that's the argument the other way. Well, we don't have as many injuries, and yet we kept kickoffs in the game.
And they also had more returns this past season too. So,
what'd you think? I mean, did you think it was a hit, miss, or kind of like a meh?
Well, it was meh because the Browns special teams just sucked ass this year, and they did not the Browns did nothing well in any phase. Offense, defense, special teams. They really did nothing particularly well. And I just, I thought Bubba Ventrone was supposed to revolutionize is the wrong word to use. Elevate. That's the word I'm looking for. Like, he was supposed to elevate the Browns special teams. And I feel like in the 2 years he's been here, it's been blah. I don't think he's elevated anything.
I mean, could Mike Prefer have done the same thing? Probably, right?
Yeah, 100%, I mean, 100%. Like, there was no, so the season's spiraling out of control, right?
Why did they switch? I'm still torn on that. I know it was, it doesn't mean a whole lot, but why would you have even made that switch in the first place?
Well, Stefanski wanted to make a change, and he wanted to bring in, he wanted to bring in
Bubba.
Bubba.
I don't know. Was it Kevin or was it maybe somebody else?
I think a combination of, but like, I just feel like that, when you have a season that's going down the drain, wouldn't you want to try some stuff? When you have nothing to lose, no fake punts, no fake field goals, no throwbacks on kickoff returns.
But is that on Ken though? Is that on Ken or is that on Bubba?
Well, I think that's on. I think it's a combination of both. But really didn't see the Browns practice any of that stuff during training camp or the offseason either. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't even. I never saw. There have been years past where I've seen them practice a fake field goal, or they have practiced a fake punt. I don't remember seeing the Browns practice a single fake field goal or fake punt or a throwback during a kickoff return drill. I could be mistaken on that, but I'm just saying.
I'm sure they probably did it when you weren't watching, you would hope, right? I mean,
But I don't remember seeing that with my own two eyes. Well, and the reason why that's important, season's over, so it doesn't matter if I say something about it now.
Right.
Obviously, in season, I would never say anything about it because then you compromise the competitive advantage or whatever. It's one of those unwritten rules when they're like when they do a reverse during a skeleton drill or they, whatever. We pretend we didn't see it, or if we were filming it, we immediately delete the film so we don't accidentally put it out there. But I'm just saying, we saw no trickeration practiced on special teams this year, and that is the first time I've gone in an entire season where I remember them not even attempting it in practice.
All right, Daryl, that'll do it for the show today. We'll be back, I guess, later in the week. We'll give you a little bit more. It's always game day in Cleveland. For Evan O'Brien, our amazing producer. We'll get back when we talk again. We'll talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl, things that happened at the Senior Bowl, and all those things that you care about when it comes to the Browns. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. Evan O'Brien again is our amazing producer, and it's always game day in Cleveland.